Welcome back to the War Zone, where last week we saw our reigning champions 259 crash out of the competition and the newcomers Siege claim the first spot in the series semifinals. Now, let's see what happens in today's heat. It's definitely going to be pure chaos, I can tell you that much. 22 seed Stampede with the flip over Breaker Box and the newcomers Beast. New Boys Mantis over to take out the Walker Bot of the competition, Chomp and Spinnerbot Nuts 2. But first, third seed's Endgame over to take out Blacksmith and the New Boys Cut It Out. Endgame Spinner. The Kiwis are back with Endgame after coming in third place in the last wars, the blade and front plow being the main weapons for the machine along with its great drive. The exposed wheels may prove to be costly however, as they're not that hard to knock out with a blade as seen last time. Cut it out! Spinner! A four-wheel drive box bot with a deadly spinning blade to slice into the opposition. The exposed wheels at the top help the machine drive both ways up, which the side skirts don't really do anything to stop, as the machine is actually easily flippable. Blacksmith! Axe bot! They got booted out of the competition by Sub-Zero in the last wars, so they've returned this time with a new body shell and a much stronger hammer. The drive is also a lot better than it was before and a low wedge. The only real problem for the machine is the exposed mechanism for the weapon.
Roboteers, stand by.
Endgame with the spinning blade. Cut It Out with their own spinning blade. And Blacksmith with the flamethrower hammer.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Why would you make a flamethrower hammer? That's not the question I should be asking. The question is, who wouldn't want a flamethrower hammer? Actually, probably Endgame, because look at this! They're on fire themselves! And I think that was done from Cut It Out! Coming underneath Blacksmith! But Endgame seriously compromised now! Driving in on everyone! Well, trying to! I think they're being the ones being pressurized now! I think they're the ones, being pressurized. Okay. I need to relearn English, quite clearly, but look at this! Endgame in serious trouble! Their weapon's not even working! And that's gonna seriously compromise them! Meanwhile, Blacksmith throws Cut It Out into the pit! And what's that on the floor? When did that come off? Well, Blacksmith's got no weapon! And Endgame seems to be having drive issues. They can't drive in a straight line. There's Blacksmith now. They just drove into the pit. You could have won this, you know. If you hadn't have done this idiocy, you were fine. And then you drive into the pit. Well, because of that, it's Endgame shockingly through. What absolute stupidity from Blacksmith. They're into the silver, Cut It Out into the bronze, Endgame miraculously into the gold, luckily. Next up, Mantis, Chomp, and Nuts 2. Mantis. Control Bot. One of my favorite insects, actually. They're just so cool. Mantis uses the front claws to hold their prey, and the little wedge at the front lifts them off the ground, allowing them to take them wherever they want. However, there's no Shrimmick on board, and it's very vulnerable to side attacks. Chomp! Walker Bot! A big walker robot at twice the weight, which is allowed in the rules for walkers. The giant axe is attached to a turret, which can turn to hit its opponent wherever it is. But the turret is slow, and the machine's movement is just as slow. Nuts 2! Spinner! What we have here is a small body with two big wheels protected by a ring cage with two long axe flails to keep others at bay. The wheels on the machine are easier to hit than the actual body of the robot, but the major issue the machine has is that it's a bit difficult to control. Breaking news from the pits, there's a problem with Chomp, a mechanical problem. The weapon works for Chomp fine, yes, but everything else is not. The legs won't properly move it. The turret's not in control. There's small flamethrowers coming out, if you can see. There's no controlled movement from Chomp. There's no time to repair it. They have to be out now. They can't compete. They've had to withdraw and retire. So they are out. Hopefully we get to see them next time, but Chomp is gone. And we can't have a preliminary fight with only 2 machines. Meaning we've got to pull someone off from the side bench. Surfs up. Flipper. Always ready to wash out the opposition with a CO2 flipping surfboard made out of aluminium, the low front makes frontal assaults on the machine fruitless, but an attack on the rear will work as the ground clearance is higher there.
Roboteers, stand by.
Mantis with the controlling lifting mandibles surfs up with the CO2 powered surfboard, and Nuts 2 with the chain flails.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Surfs up, don't forget, a reserve bot since Chomp couldn't compete. Great to see how powerful they are. Well, they're definitely powerful with the flipper, throwing Nuts 2 over, and they're throwing themselves as well. Mantis not really doing much. In comes Nuts 2, and then to the pit. So surfs up. Well, the way the flipper is, they should be able to get out, but look at this flip there. With tangent to the smack from Nuts 2 into the pit, and Nuts 2 trying to throw themselves out, and they've done it! Out of the pit! Look at this! Boom! Hello, I'm back. And now, oh, if you got yourself stuck in the pit again, really? Well, there's the flipper, and this time Nuts 2 helps. Well, Nuts 2 in the pit, which, well, I wonder what the judge will say to this. The judge will say, surfs up, clearly drunk, because they're back in the pit. Brilliant. I think they have a love affair with the pit, to be perfectly honest. In the pit they go. Mantis didn't have to do a lot in this. And Mantis heading on through to the Gold Rumble. There's no point firing your weapon, Surfs Up. You are gone. Question is, will you be in the Silver Rumble? Or will you be in the Bronze? We'll have to wait and see. And the judges have ruled Surfs Up into the Silver. Somehow. Natsu sadly goes into the Bronze. And Mantis makes it to the Gold. Next up, Stampede, Breaker Box, and Beast. Stampede. Flipper. One of the very few robots that managed to hold their own against Giovatono in the last wars, even if they did still end up in bits. They've rebuilt the machine and are ready to attempt to go one step further than last time with the Tusks and Flipper, although they haven't seemed to have covered their wheels up. Breaker Box. Rambot. Back from being destroyed by concussion in the last wars, virtually unchanged from the last wars as it was quite effective, the front wedge is very low and able to get underneath with ease for an effective flip, but the exposed wheels are still a problem. Beast. Flipper. Have you people heard of this thing called armor? Because I'm getting the feeling you haven't. Two-wheel driven with a powerful flipper, but the lack of armor makes the electronics seriously endangered of being struck and damaged, and resulting in the beast meeting its end.
Roboteers, stand by.
Stampede with the CO2-powered flipper, Breaker Box with the front wedge, and Beast with the CO2 flipper, and no armor.
3, 2, 1.
Like, you're not gonna get very far. Ooh, well, your speed might just help. Stampede releasing the pit. Now, everyone seems to be stuck here for some reason. In comes Stampede. What were you doing? Yes, Stampede. Under no pressure, just reverse. Well, Stampede's in the Bronze Rumble. Now, what's gonna happen between Breaker Box and Beast? They're going to separate, or Beast will have to flip them out the arena, and does so spectacularly, and spending the light on the back, and that is absolutely and split themselves out of the arena. Well, that was glorious. Just glorious. And there we go, confirmation, Stampede bronze, Breaker Box silver, Beast in the gold. Here's how our 3 fights line up. Endgame, Mantis, and Beast in the gold rumble, Blacksmith, Breaker Box, Surfs Up in the silver. But first up's the bronze rumble with Cut It Out, Nuts 2, and 22nd seed, Stampede.
Robot ears, stand by.
Cut It Out with the spinner. Nuts 2 with the chain flails, and Stampede, the 22nd seeds, with the CO2 flipper.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Now, bronze rumble lineup. And Stampede, definitely the quicker, and already underneath. Cut It Out and setting them on fire with the flipper. They've clearly hit something vital. Meanwhile, Nuts 2 spinning around on the spot, doing nothing. Well, having a bit of a wheelie. I think they've caught themselves on their own chain flail. And I think that's part of it on the floor there. Now, Stampede taking on Nuts 2, who are smoking. And I think there's an internal problem for Nuts 2. And meanwhile, Cut It Out taking on Stampede, doing barely any damage. The weapon not as effective as Jovatono's. Or maybe Stampede's armor is a lot stronger than it was last time. Stampede not phased by Cut It Out's weapon. Nuts 2 smoking and immobilized. Poor Nuts 2. To be honest, they didn't do much in this fight, did they? They just span around the spot. Meanwhile, Cut It Out trying to avoid the flipper of Stampede because it is a very dangerous one. But they're now being pinned in by the tusk of Stampede, who now attempt to throw and nearly threw themselves down the pit there. That was very close, but now do so. Down and out. Look at this. Almost in the pit. They skirted death there. But then the drive, and they overshot and too far over. And down the pit, almost trying to drag. Well, they're in the pit now, anyways. But it's Cut It Out to head through to the death or glory. And it is such a shame because Stampede did very well and did some major damage to Cut It Out. I think that's why they weren't as effective. But they're out of the competition, as is Nuts 2, who burnt out, sadly. Cut It Out through to the death or glory. Next up, the Silver Rumble with Blacksmith, Surfs Up, and Breaker Box.
Robot ears, stand by.
Blacksmith with the flamethrower hammer, Surfs Up with the CO2-powered surfboard, and Breaker Box with the wedge.
2, 1. Activate.
So who will be the stronger? There's Blacksmith, and then to the air and out! And that's very quick! In just a few seconds! Look at this again! This was the finisher! And they didn't last long, so they are gone. Out of the arena. Now, Surfs Up on the attack on Breaker Box. Flipping them into the air, and I've got the feeling that they're going to go the same way they did against Beast. Into the air again, and again, and again. They're doing better against Surfs Up now, until that moment, out the arena, and Surfs Up through to the death or glory. Well done. And there's a... right. So, what have you done here? Here we go. You fired your weapon. You've self-righted. Nearly out of the arena. Not quite. Oh, now you are. What the hell was that? What was that? Honestly, what? Whatever it was, it was interesting. Like 3 wave levels of screw-ups. But they're through to the death of glory. Next up, 3rd seeds, Endgame, Mantis, and Beast.
Robot Ears, stand by.
Endgame, the third seeds with the spinning blade. This is good. I feel like they're gonna have a fairly interesting Gold Rumble here because, well, up goes Mantis, out goes Beast! Very quick and fast! Just as fast as Blacksmith did in the last fight. Look at this! Into there goes Mantis, but out of the arena goes Beast, courtesy of Endgame! And there's a clash onto the side of Mantis! And that's the end! Very quick, very fast! Probably Endgame's fastest victory so far in its career on Robot Wars, through to the Heat Final! Has to be the quickest victory of their career on Robot Wars Endgame. They're through to the Heat Final, and this is how the Death or Glory looks. Cut It Out, Surf's Up, Beast, and Mantis. This should be fun.
Robot Ears, stand by.
Our Death or Glory battle. Cut It Out with the spinner, Surf's Up with the flipper, Beast with the flipper, and Mantis with the mandibles. But I think there's a problem here.
2, 1.
And there is. Look at that. The weapon's not even attached. So that could be a major problem as they come in for Surf's Up, who has a flipper, and throws Mantis over. Meanwhile, Cut It Out flipped by Beast. But is that a problem for Surf's Up? They're not moving. The weapon works, yes. Beast thrown over. Surf's Up trying to flip back into battle. Mantis righted, but I think Surf's Up is immobilized. And now Beast's up on the side. Can they right themselves, or are they out of CO2? What's going on here? Cut It Out and Mantis in the pit. Well, who's won there? They're both in the pit. Surf's Up with the flipper. They've caught themselves again. Nope, they're fine. Just about. But what's happening with Cut It Out and Mantis? Hang on, I'm being told that Cut It Out fell into the pit first. So it's Mantis who goes to the Heat Final. What a surprise. What a turn up. I'm stunned. Absolute shocker. Mantis wins without even having a weapon. Everyone else, they are gone. This is the Heat Final. A rematch from the Gold Rumble. Third seeds Endgame. And the new boys Mantis.
Robot Ears, stand by.
Endgame with the spinner, seeded number 3. And Mantis with the mandibles.
3, 2, 1.
And Mantis have done very well to get to the Heat Final, but now thrown up and over. And self-right. Well, that's a surprise. I didn't think they could self-right. So the weapon can help them. They're up and over now and are struggling. They're on their own. They're on their head. And Endgame can come in and brutalize them. Especially with a good push and blade. And out they go. That's the end of Mantis out the arena. Well done to Endgame through to the series semifinals. And I feel like that was written on the cards. An inevitability, really. But well played to Mantis. They did well, but it's Endgame who goes through. No surprise that they've made it through to the semifinals. Well done to the third seeds who joined Siege. But there are still many other machines with the potential of making it too. But until then, take care, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.